With page 19 of the Standard on Sunday, Jubilee Party dream was untimely, Uhuru and Ruto allies now admit. Let me start with you, Dismas. Do you think this headline is a bit pushing it, or is this happening?
That headline is accurate, and I suspect whoever in Jubilee came up with the strategy that they needed to merge the political parties and just discovered that they did one huge mistake. But I suspect the person who came up with the initiative was working on the brief of the deputy president. And the deputy president has made public his ambitions that he would want to use this year as a stepping stone to 2022 and 2027. So he was hoping to craft a system that would serve his selfish interest, and he didn't take into account of any other person's interest, not even his boss, President Kenyatta. If you look at the lineup of the party officials for Jubilee, you'll be surprised to learn that all of them are friends of Ruto. Mm-hmm. And the president has only got one friend there called Murathe. And it's not surprising that as we approach this election, there may be a coup within Jubilee. And I know Higgins is reluctant to accept that. However, with the entry of Gideon Moi, and I'm sure we are going to discuss that. Sorry, or Brian Bugwa. Brian Bugwa will be reluctant to accept that. But again, with the entry of Gideon Moi coming to complicate the equation, the Deputy President Ruto being an abrasive man, very vindictive and power hungry, he may just decide to cause a coup. And you know, he's been accusing NASA that NASA or Jajipanga, they don't even know who their presidential candidate is. Now with the entry of Moi in Jubilee, you have a potential of three candidates. You have Gideon Moi, the deputy president, and the president himself. So it's going to be a very complicated ball game.
All right.
And part of the reason why folks in Jubilee have been crying, they know for a fact that the party primaries are not going to be free and fair. So they've created an opportunity for Governor Munya and his party PNU to attract membership. They're giving an opportunity to Martha Karua and NAC, and somebody that nobody expected to have an influence in central Kenya, Governor Mutua, with his Maendeleo chap-chap.
Right. Yeah. Brian, all these parties that Dismas is mentioning, Maendeleo chap-chap, PNU, NAC Kenya, all trying to hive off some slice of Jubilee due to the fact that Jubilee is a very big party and people are feeling a bit intimidated. Do you think that maybe Kenyans were not ready for such a big political party?
No, I think
that is Kiraitu Murungi's
those parties are
sentiments.
They're heaving up the second-tier politicians because serious politicians want to compete in the Jubilee primaries because Jubilee is a strong party. And what I can say is people don't understand why Jubilee was formed. Jubilee was formed to be a national party. You know, when you used to say TNA, you used to say it's a Mount Kenya party. When you used to say URP, you used to say it's a Rift Valley party. Now, at least you can say Mount Kenya and Rift Valley in one sentence when you define Jubilee. So it's a movement that's going to be a national party, as you can see.
Why, Daktari, why do you think the resistance is there, or is it just fear?
I think, Ben, this thing is coming from the fear of free and fair nominations. And of course also drawn from the fact that people would want to directly interact with the candidate, I mean the elected or the electorate, instead of interacting at some point or being sieved at some nomination level. And I can tell you that if these smaller parties were not going to come or form, then there was going to be a lot of challenges, in fact security challenges,
right,
and people eliminating each other at that political nomination level. So it is a very good thing that we are seeing now some splinter parties, smaller parties. They're actually creating some sort of vent for right, Jubilee, so that instead of a party having 23 in some county assembly, some wards, you have some parliamentary aspirants, up to 40 in some constituencies. It is better for Jubilee to have Maendeleo Chap-Chap, to have PNU, to have all these parties to create some vent. And of course, I agree totally with Kiraitu Murungi that despite the fact that the idea may have been good, Kenyans were not ready for this sort of single party, or they have a fear that Jubilee was going to take them back to where KANU had been at that particular point, and it was going to be a party that settles scores. So it is a very welcome idea that there are these smaller parties which are supporting Jubilee or the presidential candidature, and they are going to field their own candidates at the lower level.
Ishmael, what do you think about this and the timing?
Thank you, Ben, for hosting us. I think, in my view, what comes out is clearly the inexperience in those parties that actually merged.
Right.
You see, this is Kiraitu Murungi talking, and there was also some quiet within the Ruto camp recently. You heard Murkomen complaining that they are not getting a fair deal. So I think this shows inexperience on the part of the parties that merged, and you will see what the other parties are doing, like in NASA and CORD as it was. They are not necessarily breaking the parties, but they are joining together to form a coalition. So this was a misstep, and I think they will live to regret every time of their life. Yes.
As both sides of the political divide, as you make up your point, Dismas, as both sides of the political divide prepare for the elections, which strategy is going to work better? Amalgamation of 11 political parties into one, or super alliance?
Well, there are two scenarios to look at. First of all, when you look at Jubilee today, Jubilee, you wouldn't say that it's a coalition of political parties or institutions. It's been a coalition of two individuals, and now Gideon Moi is upsetting the entire scenario, is becoming the third individual. And whatever is going to happen in Jubilee is going to be informed by individual decisions. Whatever Ruto decides, whatever Kenyatta decides, and now Gideon Moi will carry their way. Unlike NASA, which is claiming that it's a coalition of institutions, that they're bringing together political parties. And that poses a very serious challenge, because if they don't manage it very well, in places like Nairobi, Mr. Mbogo and company would easily take over the governor's position. If say Musalia Mudavadi decides to get a lawyer man to run for NC and Raila Odinga gets, say, Kidero, then they would easily lose. But the interesting thing within Jubilee, that the deputy president has never been nervous at the mention of PNU and Muya. Is kept very quiet. And at the mention of Maendeleo Chap is not raised the issues, and even NAK Kenya. The only time he's becoming a bit nervous, and when you look at his body language the last couple of days, he's very nervous at the mention of Gideon Moi. So one wonders what makes him nervous. Is it because of the Rift Valley dynamics, or maybe the visit of Mama Ngina Kenyatta to Kabarak to have a word with Daniel Arap Moi is bringing a bit of friction. And those are, I think, the issues, the dynamics which are really going to affect the DP Ruto, especially when they're doing their nominations in Rift Valley.
All right.
Because now for the first time in a long while, the people in Rift Valley have been, actually, they're going to be spoiled for choice. People in the Northern Rift are going to find that they've got company of KANU. So anybody who is saying that is supporting the President Kenyatta can either use Jubilee or can use KANU. And then in the South Rift, now they've got Chama Shinani, and then also they have KANU. So I think Mr. Mbogwe is in a bit of trouble to try and establish how they're going to manage Chama Shinani.
We're going to talk
KANU.
about that KANU equation, but Brian, this must be a very strong indictment of your party that it has no structures.
I think that's a lie. I don't remember when...
That is, it's only decisions of two people that really matter. Is that true?
You know, this must come from a school of thought that a party is made of individuals. But you see, Jubilee has members. And we had a delegate conference, and the delegates allowed us to merge these parties. And as much as this must want us to believe that Jubilee is a party of two individuals and a third one has come in, I don't think that's a main issue here, because before there was Maendeleo Chap, there was PNU, there was NAK Kenya supporting Jubilee. So there's nothing special like KANU in that equation. It's the same as PNU, Mashinani and other parties.
All right. Was it a mistake to fold small parties? Is this something that has been said by some of those people who feel disgruntled, who folded up their parties, the likes of Kalembe, Ndile, and all those small parties? Was it a mistake for those parties to fold up?
Ben, as we spoke here some times back, I shared and said that, you know, globally, trade is being localized as much as it is becoming global. If, right, for instance, you want to go to an amusement park, different countries are creating amusement parks that have local content in them. In fact, if you look at even now the bill that we are having in terms of the energy bill, revenue sharing for mineral resources, there is a component of local content. Mm-hmm. And so today it would have been better for a party like New Ford Kenya to fight off Ford Kenya in a place like Bungoma. That creates that local content, and people are able to relate to New Ford Kenya. They know where they can find the chairman, just maybe around the corner. They know who the Secretary General is, and so it would have been easier. And in marketing, you would call that a fighter brand for the national party and national movement. It would have been easier for Tip Tip, for example, to field MCAs at the very local level and then have now their support for the national candidature. So in my view, at that particular time, Jubilee may have thought they are creating a movement, maybe together with the law, try to lock in candidates inside Jubilee, but that has not worked very well. But allow me to comment on something that Dismas is bringing up in terms of the position of Gideon Moi as he comes into Jubilee, or to support President Kenyatta.
Support Mr. Kenyatta.
To support Mr. Kenyatta. You see, I do not think that Mr. Kenyatta would be looking for Gideon Moi as an alternate to William Ruto. And if that would be the strategy, then it will be the worst strategy that the Kenyatta side may be thinking through. Because, you know, Gideon Moi still remains a baby in terms of politics, and is going to grow over time compared to William Ruto, because he has had his politics revolve around West Pokot and revolve around Baringo, and he's not been able to reach out. So he will grow through. It will take time perhaps, and it may come in 2022 or thereabout, but as of now, it will, if what Dismas is talking about is anything to go by, then it will be the tragedy of the Kenyatta side.
And I think we're going to have a very good conversation when we get to that topic. Yes,
Just before you really move forward, you see, mergers are important and they are good. In fact, if you look at countries like Bulgaria, Canada, Georgia, what has happened, you know, good coalitions can even form a geographical bloc that can actually make a country. What is the reason why NASA is forming a coalition, and why is Jubilee breaking all parties so that they call themselves one party and now call on KANU, and then they stand together? If you look at the statement just after inaugurating NASA, you know, as a coalition, you could see that the mistake our NASA did is they attacked Jubilee almost immediately. They are attacking 7 million people who probably are not their enemies. And when you look at Jubilee, when they're coming out here to make an announcement, they are actually attacking NASA supporters who are innocent. So this is where I find the problem. People can form coalitions.
Yes.
You can support whichever candidate or whichever group you want. But the problem comes in when you start the infighting and you direct your anger to innocent supporters behind Uhuru Kenyatta or behind Moses Wetangula.
All right.
I'm careful and choose it to my
I noticed. Let's move to page 5 of Standard on Sunday.